Today, I am joined by the amazingly talented Derik Nelson. Derik is an amazing singer, songwriter, and producer who has multiple albums. You may recognize him and his bright smile from the choir room at McKinley High on the hit Fox show and my favorite show, Glee. Derik was the guitarist for the New Directions for multiple years. Thank you so much, Derik, for joining me on the Inspiration Show. It is an honor to speak with you.
It is an honor to be here, Alison. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. Do I have your permission to post this episode of The Inspiration Show on social media?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, when did you develop a passion for music?
Let's see. Music has always been a part of my life and a part of our family. Growing up with two siblings, a younger brother and an older sister, we always loved singing together. So if we had company coming over for dinner, they were then trapped in the living room while we put on these impromptu plays and musicals and concerts. And so music has always been a part of my life. I got my start doing musical theater when I was a kid. And then I realized I just loved being on stage. I loved being in front of people and being able to share these stories of these different characters. And so I thought, eventually, what about my story? What do I have to say? And started really getting into songwriting and music production. And that led me down a whole path as a musical artist and kind of transitioned my love for theater into being able to tell my own stories.
Wow, I really think it's amazing how one start can really branch and develop all these different passions and hobbies. And that's something that you really went for and pursued.
Definitely. And I think as artists, we're as creative people, there's a lot of different avenues for how we can share what we have to say. And for everybody, that looks a little bit different. And some people are more athletically inclined. I was not one of those people.
Same.
And other people have more like the visual art or, sound or performance art. And that was definitely where my heart was always kind of calling me to.
My heart is definitely set there as well. What inspired you to become a musician?
Oh boy. Well, again, I think my love for singing. And so music really closely followed that. I think playing instruments. Do you play any instruments?
I play the clarinet.
Okay, clarinet. So that is like its own voice that is an extension of you. And so having these different instruments that each have their own little soul and their own little voice, that is an extension of who we are and our own personality. That was always really intriguing to me. And so finding ways that I could sing over the top of what I wanted to play led me to guitar and piano when I was like 13 or 14. And ever since, it was like whatever I could get my hands on, I want to explore these different sounds.
Wow, I truly think that music is our voice, but it's a different way without using words, and it uses the rhythm and the melody. And I think it's amazing that you've explored all of these different instruments.
Yeah, I love playing different instruments, and you're totally right. Music is a universal language, and I really believe that. And I think we can all feel the power of music, even if we don't maybe speak the same language or we don't have a musical background. You can feel the impact that music makes.
I completely agree with that. So, your first appearance on Glee was the beginning of the third season. What was that first week like for you, and what was going through your mind at the time?
Oh my gosh, that was such an exciting roller coaster of my life and a chapter that I did not see coming. And the beginning of season 3 was my first appearance, but I was actually on the show at the end of season 2. And a lot of people don't know this
I
because you
didn't know
don't
this.
see me. I am like a teeny tiny speck in the background, but that was my first appearance, was the very end of season 2. And it was such an honor to get that call. And to be honest with you, I had not really seen the show prior to getting the call to be in the band. And my younger brother, he was a huge Glee fan. And so I called him right away, and I got the call sheet with the email, and it said something about you're going to be playing second guitar for Santana. And I was like, dude, I'm going to be playing guitar with Carlos Santana. What? And I was like, yeah, isn't Glee like they have all those like special celebrity guests and stuff? He's like, no, you idiot, Santana the character. And I was like, oh, I guess I better do some homework here. So I watched the whole first season and was just blown away. And it's an incredible show and such an amazing experience to get to be a part of it. So yes, going back to your question, season 3, the Purple Piano Project was the name of the episode.
Yeah, I love that episode.
And you and I were just talking about this the other day, that I have this really cool feature in the middle of that episode during a song called We Got the Beat. And that's kind of where most hardcore Glee fans who know me from, because that was sort of my breakout appearance on the show. And so there's this guitar solo in the middle of that song, and I'll tell a quick story about this because I know you're a big Glee fan, and for anyone who's listening or watching who loves Glee, this is a fun little behind the scenes tidbit that a lot of people don't know.
Oh, I'm excited.
The hierarchy of a show like that, which is a huge hit show, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of people involved, right?
Right.
So this was my first time being on a TV show. This was my first time on a TV set. So I didn't really know who you could talk to and who you couldn't. And it was really important to me to make a good impression because I thought, hey, if they like me, maybe there's a chance that I could come back and work here again. That would be so cool, right?
Right.
So one of the people that you're not supposed to talk to is the director because they have a very important role. And if you're coming in and you're playing guitar in the background, that's a specific job. You do your job. You stay in your lane, so to speak. And so that was one of the things I knew was like, okay, out of respect, you don't talk to the people that are busy doing their job, just like at any other workplace. You know, you wouldn't go knock on the boss's door and say, how's it going? You want to, hang out? Right. So, so that's all I knew. If I had questions, I was to talk to my immediate supervisor, which was the music coordinator, who was the one who hired me on the show. And it was supposed to be for just this one scene, this one episode. That was it. So in the TV world, you have a rehearsal, and the rehearsal has to be exactly what's going to happen for the actual shoot. So it shows all of the technical people involved, where the lights are going to be, what dance moves are going to happen, where the action is going to be, and what happens during the scene, so that the camera people, the lighting people, everybody involved, the sound people, everyone knows what's going to happen for each one of these takes. So that way, when it comes time to actually shoot it and you're doing different camera angles and multiple takes, it has to be continuous and it has to maintain that continuity. So when you edit it all together, it all looks like one, you get it, one continuous piece. Right. So it's super important that what you do in the rehearsal is exactly what you do when you then for the rest of the day, which could be 12 hours of shooting the same song, you have to do it the same exact way. So we get done with the rehearsal. I'm back there in the band, just behind in the background. And the guitar solo happens. I'm there in the background. Nothing crazy, right?
Right.
We get done with rehearsal. That was that. I'm in my lane. And there's resetting to set up to actually start shooting. And this is a huge scene. We've got hundreds of people involved because it takes place in the lunchroom in the cafeteria during lunch. So you have all of these high school actors that are there, hundreds of people on set. And about that time, while they're resetting to actually get ready to shoot, the director walks over to me.
Was that Brad?
No, this was Eric Stoltz.
Oh, yes, Eric.
Was our director that day, yeah. Eric Stoltz, who is a huge music lover, and anytime he could plug the band for the rest of the season or the series, really, he always gave a lot of love to us in the band because he just, he's a rock star at heart. So Eric walks over to me and he says, "Hi, you're new here. What's your name?" I said, "I'm Derik. So nice to meet you. Thanks for having me here." He says, Yeah. So, tell me, can you actually play that thing? I was like, yes, absolutely. He's like, "And the solo, you can play the solo?" I was like, yeah, 100%. And he just kind of smiles. He goes, "Okay, good. And he walks over to Leah Michelle, and I see them talking, and then they're talking back and forth. And then he points to me and she looks at me and points at me. And they're still talking, and I'm like, okay.
Anxiety.
You see where this is going. So I was like, oh, that was kind of weird. Cool that the director came over and introduced himself. This is awesome. I feel like, there's such great people here, great energy, and it's awesome to be there. So, lights, camera, action. We're getting ready to roll the song. The song starts, cameras up. It's our first time shooting through the scene. It's one bar before the guitar solo happens. Leah runs over to me while
No.
we're shooting. There's a camera in my face. She runs over to me, grabs me by the hand, and pulls me up on the lunch table in front of everybody. And I was freaking out, Alison. I was like,
Oh
okay, I'm
my
now
God.
higher than anybody else, front and center, right in the middle. And it's time for the guitar solo. So I've shredded that thing and just went for it and just really like played it up because I didn't know what else. I'm not going to stop and say, what are we
Right.
doing? What's happening? You know? So the guitar solo gets done and I just decided, okay, well, that's the solo. I should probably not stay on the table. So I jump back off the table and I'm rocking out and doing my thing. And my heart is just pounding through the
I can't
rest of the
imagine.
song. I'm like, and I catch the eye of the music coordinator who hired me.
Uh-oh.
Song gets done. And she is red faced, eyes wide, fuming.
Oh
She
God.
thinks that I just played it out like the rehearsal was whatever, and now I'm gonna make this about me during the actual shoot, right?
Oh my
So
God.
she is freaking out. My heart is just like racing. The song stops, they cut. She starts making a beeline over to me, and I was like, "Here it is. I'm gonna get fired. My first day of Glee. I'm gonna get freaking fired." And right about that time, she comes over to me, about to lay into me. I'm sure. Eric Stoltz gets on the mic and says, "Give it up for Derik, our guitar player," and everyone starts clapping. And she's like, wait, what? Did he know that was going to happen? I was like, I swear I didn't know that was supposed to happen. I just went for it. He threw me into the fire. She's like,
Yo.
okay. So then from then on, all the rest of the day for like 12 hours, I mean, that scene took forever to get all the right angles and everything. And I was up there on the table the whole time. And once the episode aired, I realized the take that you see the most of with me in it is the very first take that they did. So
Oh,
just a little bit of movie magic to get those emotional, raw, genuine, authentic performances. I got to give my hat off to Eric Stoltz for for the
yeah, that,
trial by fire
that-
of stepping up and being the guitar player. So the coolest part about that is after that happened, it was sort of a test that they put me through, and so Eric then met with the music coordinator, and they had a nice conversation. And then she came back and talked to me and said, "Well, Eric really likes you. I guess you passed the test. I'd like to offer you a contract for the rest of the season."
that's amazing.
So a lot of Glee, I know that's a long story, but a lot of Glee fans don't know that side of it. And especially if that's your first time seeing me on the show, then it's a really fun moment that is near and dear to my heart and just speaks volumes to always be prepared, always be willing, be humble, and don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone and take chances every now and then.
Yeah. You had the biggest smile on your face while you were playing that. You really got the beat in that.
Oh my gosh, you're the best.
Oh, that was amazing. And like, shout out to that whole Glee casting crew. Like, I mean, every performance they've nailed. Did you have
Yeah.
a performance or a mashup or a riff that you played in particular that stands out to you?
Oh god, well, I mean that solo for sure. That is like whenever I hear that song come on the radio and I'm out somewhere, I'm always like, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
So that, of course, is like iconic to me. Um, and the other one I really like, it's super simple, but there's a beautiful acoustic arrangement of the Taylor Swift song "Mine."
Oh,
Uh,
I love that scene.
so if you know that what scene I'm talking about, it's like just this gorgeous guitar intro, and so it's just me walking into the choir room playing this little guitar, acoustic guitar thing, and I just love the arrangement of that. That stands out to me too.
Yeah, if I can share a couple favorite of mine, I'd like
Yeah.
to. So there are so many that stand out to me, but just my top three. I really enjoyed the Journeys to Regionals. That was like the sectionals. Oh, I
Oh
love
yeah.
that. I'm a huge Saturday Night Fever fan, so Saturday Night Gleaver, that was
Oh, yes.
amazing. Did you have a favorite? Because I know you were in those as well. Did you have like a
So what I remember most about that is for lunch one day while we were shooting all of that stuff in the choir room with the big light up dance floor and everything, I had a kind of sketch chicken sandwich from the deli.
uh-oh,
I'm not going to say which one because it's not their fault, but it just did not really settle right.
uh-oh.
So in between every take, I was like, oh my God, this is it. I'm going to puke. I need to puke. Like, I was feeling so sick to my stomach. And so I just remember like all the light up dance floor, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to cut so I
Yeah.
can like step out and decide if I need to get sick or not. So I unfortunately have a little traumatic memory about that, but everyone was super cool about it. And they're like, okay, if you need to step out, you step out, just let us know. And you're a trooper, hang in there. And so anyway, that was of course awkward and uncomfortable because who wants to be that guy? But
Yeah, but it was
uh,
a great episode.
yeah, that's the power of acting. You gotta do whatever it takes to be professional. And you and I have talked about that a little bit too, about like persevering through whatever's going on with your body or your mind, or some days you might not be feeling it. And your job is your job. And so really stepping up and um, putting your own adversity aside to get the task at hand done, I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say, my favorite mashup would probably be the Start Me Up and Living on a Prayer. It just stands out to me so much because you wouldn't really hear those two songs together. But
Yeah.
it just nailed and it's amazing. That was an amazing scene.
Yeah, my favorite mashup I think was oh gosh, Jumpin' Jack Flash with the maroon moves like Jagger, Jumpin' Jack Flash. I thought that was such a cool combo, and all the Glee mashups I think are really special, and they
Yeah.
really like brought to brought to life this idea of the mashup. I don't know if that really was super popular before Glee, so that was another way that show is just iconic.
It really is so iconic. And I think Glee is a great show to represent me as well, because I go to a school, like art school. So it's much like McKinley High,
Yeah,
and all of us are like interested in the arts. So we're also known as like sometimes the underdogs because we have interests and passions that some other people don't have, or also like outcasts, like one of the songs from Glee. So I think
yeah,
it was amazing that Glee really gave theater kids and kids that were passionate for the arts a platform to really see other high school kids that were in their shoes. So I think that's
yeah.
also made it super special.
I really resonate with that too because I kind of like floated around. I didn't have my set like group. I tried to kind of be friends with everybody in high school, and didn't always feel like I fit in either. So giving a voice to those kids who we feel like misfits sometimes, and like you were saying, that the outcasts or the floaters,
Yeah,
giving a voice and really uh, elevating those people, I think was a huge strength of the show.
definitely. And you shared with us an amazing Glee behind the scenes stories, but could you share with us some other stories or memories that you have from the set?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Another one of well, like you mentioned, the Saturday Night Gleaver was super cool. Really, any time that we walked in and didn't really know what to expect for the setting, because a lot of times, just for security reasons, because the show was so big, they didn't want any spoilers out there. So we'd get the song in advance, but we wouldn't necessarily get the context of how that song fit in. We wouldn't get the script for the episode or anything. And even some of the cast members, they would just get what's called the sides, which is the excerpt of the scene that they're in, but no context for how it fits into the overall storyline. So it was always a surprise to kind of walk in and see the magic of how they would set up whatever scene it was. So another one of my favorites was hey now, don't dream it's over. And that was all outside. So again, it's set in Ohio. which was supposed to be cold and winter and snowing. And of course, we're in sunny Los Angeles and it was 65 degrees. So we're all bundled up in these jackets and coats and everything. And they had the fake snow and everything outside. And it was super cool because we shot it at a nearby high school. So there were high school kids, along and fans and stuff on the outskirts of the set, getting to watch and stuff. And just the energy is what I remember most about the whole show as far as special memories. We really were a family. You're spending so much time with all of these people, the cast and the crew, and so you'd start an early morning, and then by late at night they would want to do things to keep everybody going, and so someone would call like the In-N-Out truck, In-N-Out burger truck to show up, and we'd take a break, and okay, 30 minutes, the In-N-Out truck is here. Woo!
That's the best.
So just having those kind of moments with the whole cast and crew was really special.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you get to see how close the cast was even on screen. Like it really shined through. And I can't imagine what that was like behind the scenes to be such a sweet and close-knit family.
Yeah, it was really special.
So can you share with us some lessons or impactful things that being a part of Glee has taught you?
Yes. Being a part of that whole experience, there's such a positivity around the show. And unfortunately, there's also, if I can be really honest with you, sort of a heartbreaking, tragic, bittersweetness around the show with how many people close to or involved in the show have since passed. Obviously, the first big one being Corey Monteith. His unexpected passing was a huge shock to everybody. And I mean, I don't have to go into details. Obviously, you and everybody tuning in knows the headlines around the show. And that has in itself taught me a very important lesson about cherishing each day, because we really don't know how much time we have. And so my biggest reflections about that show are to, number one, positivity and giving a voice to the misfits, like we talked about, being yourself, celebrating our uniqueness as individuals. And then number two, the big takeaway is to really cherish the time that we have here, and to make an impact every day in small, meaningful ways, to really make things count, and seeing the fragility of of life itself, and of a project or a show like Glee. It doesn't last forever, and the impact that it makes, however, is an immense legacy. So thinking about the things that we can create together, even you here with the Inspiration Show, this is you building a legacy that will live forever. And I really believe that finding meaningful ways to make each day count and serve other people, and create things that are meaningful, that you're passionate about, is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned through that whole experience.
Yeah, and living every day like it's your last, and creating this legacy, because you don't last forever, but the
Yeah,
things you leave behind will last forever and they will be cherished forever.
that's right. Yeah.
It was amazing and very heartfelt to learn how Glee has impacted you as a person, but how has it impacted you as a musician?
Oh, another great question. Well, what a lot of people don't know about the process was every week these episodes were coming out that involved 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 musical numbers within them, within a 45-minute chunk, that not only are you creating a drama, you're creating these mini music videos, full-scale music productions, multiple times within an episode every week. So that's a big ask for a production crew. And it involved a lot of talent, and it involved a lot of people collaborating and working together to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of, they worked closely, I think, with a studio overseas that would be actually recording some of the music tracks. Sometimes it was us actually playing. And a lot of the times, in order for this process to happen, it was like a music video where there's a recorded, final, polished track. That's what gets played back while you're filming to it so that you can get the same exact timing and synchronization for each camera angle. So just like a music video where you'd be lip syncing, that's what needs to happen with some of the music parts and the performances too. Is we're playing along exactly with what's been already recorded on the track. So this taught me a lot of musical lessons about how to use my ear to be able to discern what's happening in a song and translate it to the guitar parts. So from a technical mixing standpoint, being able to hear a song, pick out the guitar, and then learn it by ear, because some of these songs were brand new. Some of these songs were original. Some of these songs hadn't hadn't been released yet by the artists that we were performing their cover of on Glee. So there wasn't exactly sheet music that you could go look up and figure it out, right? We had to learn it by ear. And that was a huge skill that I developed from working on Glee, was getting these tracks sometimes as soon as the night before the shoot, and having to really shed this stuff to memorize it and play exactly what these parts were, so that if there's a close up of your hands, it needs to look accurate. So from a technical standpoint, that really honed my ear training skills, which I think was probably the biggest unexpected takeaway from working on the show.
That is actually very, very interesting to know and to hear all about that process and how it was done, especially with the guitar where your hands are really like getting close up sometimes and the camera is just coming close and it has to look as accurate and as real as possible.
Exactly.
Wow.
And we were really plugged in, and there were some other times. I mean, I played a lot of different instruments on the show. Sometimes it was acoustic guitar. So you'd hear it. I mean, you'd hear it in the room, and people would be able to tell if you weren't playing exactly what it was. Or, piano, grand piano in the choir room. That's a loud instrument. So you'll hear it over the top of whatever track is playing. So it needs to be right. So really taking the time to go through the song and listen back and interpret what's happening, and being able to chart it out yourself and memorize it and internalize it quickly was a huge skill that really gave me a leg up.
Wow. So, alongside from Glee, you have released multiple albums, including Songs About Winter, Stories Told to Skylines, and many more. So, what is your process like when you create an album?
Man, creating albums is one of my favorite things ever. I love the recorded medium as an art form in itself, the arc of an album, of collecting all of these songs together that kind of tell a story from start to finish. I think there's such a special energy around, not only in a live performance in a concert, the journey from one song to the next, but how you can translate that to an album. The sequence of which these songs play is really important to set a certain tone or a mood or convey an emotion. So that has always been something that I've been super intrigued by. And really, creating an album is a collection of statements. Each song serves a different purpose and tells a different story. And so finding ways to put them all together in a way that makes sense as an overall artistic statement is something that I think as an artist is the goal. You want to be able to share that with other people in a way that makes an impact. So yeah, as far as the process of creating an album, I love playing so many different instruments. So it's really just a way for me to have a blank canvas that I can use all of these different colors and different brushes to paint a picture with. So the drums are one color and the bass is a different color, and then deciding what layers and which instruments go where in order to set the setting or to set the scene for the story is something that has always been a huge passion of mine.
Wow, and I really like that color analogy that you mentioned. I've never heard it that way. It's a very fascinating way to think about it.
Yeah, I can't remember. There's a term, and I'm blanking on it right now. But there's a term for people who hear music in color, and I think I have that to some degree.
I've
And mixing music is a whole another topic that we could spend hours. I mean, you get me going on that, and I will not shut up.
So, which song do you feel most represents you and why?
Oh, that's a great question. There's the one that comes to mind off the top of my head is a song that I wrote called Silver Snow, and it's from my winter concept album, Songs About Winter. And I think it really captures a lot of me as an artist. And it's kind of a departure from my regular style too, because it's not necessarily a song that I can recreate just me by myself live because it uses, like we were talking about, this painting uses a lot of different colors. I doubled my voice multiple times and recorded all these different harmonies over the top of itself to create almost like a choir effect. And then same with the guitar parts. I'm using creative ways to get different kinds of sounds out of the guitar that are mixed in a way that creates this textural layer of sound that's beyond what you could get with just one singular guitar part. So the song kind of stretches out and goes on this really beautiful journey and uses a lot of interesting instruments that I wouldn't necessarily always put into one song. And so just the sort of the range and the color palette, if we go back to colors, I think really represents my willingness as an artist to always push myself for new ideas and find new ways to tell that story.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. If you were an instrument, which instrument would you be and why?
Oh, I love that question too. Um, okay, I'll be honest with you. I have such a low voice that
I was like, whoa, start there.
um, I have such a low voice. I was always like a bass in high school choir. It was always like, okay, first thing, Derik, bass. I never got to be a lot of those like romantic lead roles that are always tenors. Why are they always tenors? So in my heart of hearts, I always wanted to be able to sing really high and like belt really high. And I also love the sound of the saxophone. So alto saxophone was really the first instrument that I learned in fifth grade. And so that not only has a special place in my heart, but I think the tone range of the sax is very closely related to the human voice. And while it's probably similar to like a female voice, I'm going to go with like a high tenor, right? So I think in my heart of hearts, I would be a saxophone because it's loud enough to still be the center of attention, but beautiful enough to convey some really sweet delicacy and the tone, the deliciousness of the tone. I think is really intriguing to me.
Yeah, I absolutely love the sound of saxophones as well, and I love that answer very much.
Like an old soul jazz sort of. I mean, I'm like an old soul at heart, very romantic guy. So this idea of like me as a jazz ballad, I think would be kind of a no-brainer to me.
Oh,
What
that's
about you? How do you feel about clarinet?
I love clarinet. I haven't been able to play that much because of COVID, because I
Yeah.
know they play inside of school, but it was just so amazing to get to play an instrument and to use that as my voice and getting to play all of these different harmonies and melodies and musical pieces that have a meaning and
Yeah.
getting to interpret it. It's just amazing. It's been such a great experience.
Would you be interested in like expanding to other reed instruments? Because I know clarinet, sometimes it's like, oh, you play clarinet for a while and then you're like, oh, I might go to saxophone.
I was thinking about saxophone. but my thing is holding really large instruments and focusing on music and then having to read it. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I would always love to try trumpet, but I cannot do the embouchure. Like I can't buzz
Oh,
on it.
so
It's
hard. That's one of those
so
instruments
hard.
that's not really in my arsenal. I can get kind of a good enough sound to record like a note and then manipulate that a little bit in the editing. But as far as like being able to play trumpet, no.
Yeah, I'd love to expand and try a lot of different musical like pieces and other instruments. I think that that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So your first album was released in 2008 and is titled Alone with the Keys and the Cat. Love that name, by the way. Your latest album, Specific Madrone and Music Meditations Volume 1, 2, and 3 were released in 2020. How do you feel your music has evolved between then?
Great question. I think I've gotten a lot more nuanced and specific as a songwriter. So I think the songs themselves have hopefully gotten a lot better over the years. And I listen back to some of the earlier stuff I've written, and it's written from this perspective of like bright-eyed and yearning for the girl that's out there, and a lot of these songs that center around love and wanting to find love or wanting to be in love or having my heart broken. And then like music meditation, fast forward to 2020, was born out of the pandemic of wanting to serve people in a way that uses music as like a relaxation, stress relief, therapeutic kind of thing. So it's all just piano, solo piano, quiet improvisation style stuff, a huge departure from anything that is like my singer songwriter stuff. And then Pacific Madrona was sort of a celebration of sorts of kind of arriving to this point where I got married. So it tells the story of getting married in 2020, finding my wife, my now wife, and this whole kind of arc to the journey where I have always kind of used songwriting as an outlet in a way to convey my emotions, and a lot of that has been focused on relationships, and which always fascinates me about songwriting and the ways that we can talk about love and emotions, and what deeper emotion is there than love. So trying to tell stories from that angle have seemed to resonate with a lot of other people too. And so yeah, Pacific Madrona kind of captures that journey of finally arriving at love, and even includes my vows. I wrote my vows as song. I know.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. How did your wife react to that?
Oh, she cried. She wept. It was a surprise for her, and I had been putting it together for a while. And originally, it was just supposed to be like this idea. I was like, okay, what am I going to do for my vows? Oh, I want to write them as a song. And so I wrote the song, and I got done. And it's like, I have more to say. It's not enough. So I realized there were all of these different stories about our relationship and finding each other that kind of come from different perspectives. And so it made for a great little quiet acoustic collection of songs. And so I put it all together as a special gift for her and gave it to her just a few days before our wedding day.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's one thing that I love about singers and songwriters as well. You really get to learn about their stories throughout their music, and you really can get inspired by those stories and you can connect to those stories. And I just think music is a beautiful way to tell them.
I agree. It's one of my favorite things about being a songwriter is getting to tell stories in a very specific way that elicits an emotional response that is unlike any other medium of art.
Yeah, it truly is one of a kind. Do you have someone who inspires you or something that inspires you when you create music?
Um, I mean, it depends on the songwriting muse. I think it depends on the topic of what the song is being written about. Like I said, I have always been compelled to want to write about relationships because I think it makes for sort of a fascinating perspective that a lot of other people can resonate with. Um, but as far as like somebody that inspires me, I think about my sister Rihanna a lot. She's always been sort of my closest sounding board and is the first person I think of when I have a new idea or I want to try something different with a song. She's one of the few people in my life that I can send it over and be like, okay, tell me what you actually think, you know? So having those close people that are really on our team, you know, who have your back, it's important to make sure that those relationships are intact because having that support structure, I think, is so integral to continuing a journey as an artist or as a performer.
That's amazing. And I know that you also have a very musical family. So what's it like getting to connect with your family through your music and sharing it with them?
It's really special, and especially over the past few years since 2016, we began touring professionally as a trio. So my brother and sister and I we joined forces and put together this band really called Derik Nelson and Family, and all of my music then got to be presented in this beautiful sibling harmony blend. And we've have since traveled all over the country and all over the world, and was a really special part of my life that I will look back on so fondly forever. Unfortunately, it came to an end with the pandemic. Like many things, you know, we have to learn to pivot, and we have to learn to face adversity head on and not be afraid to step into other things. And sometimes that can be bittersweet to let go of things that have been so close to our heart. And Derik Nelson and Family, that project was definitely that for me. Bittersweet to say goodbye to, but it makes space for new things to come, and we will always have each other's backs. And whenever we get together, we still love singing together. So that will never change.
That must have been an amazing experience for you and your siblings to kind of share that sibling bond and that love for music and getting to share it with the world while on tour. That's amazing.
It was really special. Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a younger brother.
So imagine being on an endless road trip with your younger brother and then still coming out of that experience not having killed each other.
I'd say that's an accomplishment. That's a
That's
great.
how we feel too. You know, it's something that I think nobody else can really relate to other than the three of us of like some of these experiences that we've had where, you know, the hotel is closed and the only dinner that we can find is Walmart, and, you know, a tire goes flat and you're broken down at 2 in the morning at the side of the road. I mean, we've been through it all. So to have those kind of moments and then also have these really special big moments on giant stages with amazing audiences with, you know, all of our lights and sound and our whole production gear, really was like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Oh, and that's amazing. And for the rest of your lives, you can say you did that together.
Exactly. Yep.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Derik, for joining me on the Inspiration Show. It was such an honor to speak with you, and thank you for being a musical inspiration to me.
Of course. It is an honor for me. And before we go, I have a question for you.
Go for it.
What inspired you to start the Inspiration Show? Because you're such an amazing host, and the interviews that you've done are incredible. And I'm just curious to know what inspires you and where this is headed for you.
Oh, that's a great question. So, the story that really sparked the idea for the Inspiration Show was the story of Zach Sobiek. And Zach was a musician who was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. And he wrote a song called Clouds as his goodbye to his family, his friends, and the
Oh my
world.
gosh.
And he recently had a movie come out on Disney Plus called Clouds. And I watched that movie and I just realized that it isn't just some made up story, it was someone's life. And like we said, music is this universal language. And to say that he used music as his goodbye and he took the very little time that he had left to leave a legacy behind, which was his music. I think that that was really inspiring to me. And Glee also played a huge role in starting that because Glee has impacted me and inspired me in countless ways. So those were really the two main inspirations.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Well, I applaud you and I am just humbled to get to speak with you. And I know great things are destined for your future. And please keep in touch with me because I'd love to hear what's going on in your world.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining me. It was such an honor.
Thank you for having me. The honor was all mine.